So welcome back to Black History. Now for the first time ever, we're going to gain a special insight into the philosophy and opinions of one of the greatest men to have ever walked this earth. We're going to be celebrating a remarkable life and legacy over the next 31 days as I bring you the resurrection of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, a series which will be presented by myself, Jermaine Brown, featuring 31 brothers from our community, all chosen to resurrect speeches from Marcus Garvey daily. Now before we get into today's main show, today's speech, I must give you some handy information, food for thought. I want to just give you some insight and background on Marcus Mosiah Garvey, because these are the things that you need to know. Marcus Garvey was the founder and organizer of the largest independent black movement in the world, the Universal Negro Improvement Association and the African Communities League. And at the heights of success, the organization had a worldwide membership of over 11 million subscribed members. Now this was an excellent feat, especially when we consider that this happened during a time of no internet, no smartphones, and no social media. And to top it all off, here's the icing on the cake. It was in the midst of 2 world wars. Now, I can't even get a following like that on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat, you know, and that's supposed to be easy. Easy. Never mind my organization, yeah? But he dared to travel the world, even to non-English speaking regions, spreading his message of unity, self-love and empowerment. This was crazy. Would you do that? You know, I wonder what fueled his mind. I wonder what intrigued him to be the person he became. I know people like me are inspired by people like him. This was during a time it was particularly dangerous for black men and women to even wander outside of their own homes. But these factors did not stop the man and his movement, for he had at his disposal an unmatched confidence. He didn't fear failure. He didn't care about the laughter and the ridicule hurled at him, for he had a fearless passion for the advancement of black people worldwide that fueled his mission.
Brothers gonna work it all night. Oh, we must all join hands. We can march across this land.
Now I'm intrigued to know more about the mind of this man and how he accomplished so much. What can I take from him that I can apply to my life today?
Brother turning on sister, sister turning on brother. Now how you gonna get it together? Being against all of us. Shoot up.
This is now program 15 of our series, and as we are near the halfway mark, I just have to give you a gentle reminder that we have just 16 shows left to broadcast. So today, we're going to visit Harlem, New York, in the year 1924. The full speech has never yet been located, yet it is one of Marcus Garvey's most famous speeches to date. It's entitled, "Look for Me in a Whirlwind or a Storm." Today's narration is by Brother Imani, aka Brian Edwards. Now, those of you from Dudley, UK, may formerly know him as Lick Shot.
You are listening to an Honourable production featuring the resurrection of Marcus Mosiah Garvey series. Marcus Garvey.
There is no future for people who deny their past. My foreparents, my grandparents, my mother, my father did not suffer and die to give me an education to slight, oppress or discourage my people. Because whatsoever education I acquired out of their sacrifice over 300 years, I shall use for the salvation of the 400 million black people of the world. And the day when I forsake my people, may God Almighty say, there shall be no more life for you. I unequivocally rejected the racist assumption of much white American Christianity, namely that God had created the black man inferior and that he had intended Negroes to be a servant class, heavers of wood and drawers of water. Well, I predicated my view of man on the doctrine of Imago Dei. All men, regardless of color, are created in the image of God. Now, from this premise follow the equality of all men and the brotherhood of all men. The biblical injunction of Acts 17:26 reminds us that he created of one blood all nations of men to dwell on the face of the earth. I was most interested in the brotherhood within my own race, because if Negroes are created in God's image and Negroes are black, then God must in some sense be black. If the white man has the idea of a white God, let him worship his God as he desires. We have found a new ideal, because whilst our God has no color, and yet it is human to see everything through one's own spectacles, and since the white people have seen their God through their white spectacles, we have only now started to see our own God through our own spectacles. But we believe in the God of Ethiopia, the everlasting God, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost, the one God of all ages. That is the God in whom we believe, but we shall worship him through the spectacles of Ethiopia. For 250 years, we have struggled under the burden and rigors of slavery. We were maimed, we were brutalized, we were ravaged in every way. We are men, we have hopes, we have passions, we have feelings, we have desires just like any other race. The cry of race all over the world, of Canada for the Canadians, of America for the Americans, of England for the English, of France for the French, or Germany for the Germans. Did you think it unreasonable that we, the blacks of the world, should raise the cry, Africa for the Africans? The Negro is a man. We represent the new Negro. His back is not yet against the wall. We do not want his back against the wall, because that would be a peculiar and desperate position. We do not want him there. It is because of this that we are asking for a fair compromise. Well, the Belgians have control over the Belgian Congo, which they cannot use. They have not the resources to develop nor the intelligence. The French have more territory than they can develop. There's certain parts of Africa in which they cannot live at all. So it is for you to come together and give us a United States of Africa. We are not going to be a race without a country. God never intended it. And we are not going to abuse God's confidence in us as men. We are men, human beings, capable of the same acts as any other race, possessing under fair circumstances the same intelligence as any other race. Now Africa's been sleeping, not dead, only sleeping. Today Africa's walking around not only on her feet, but on her brains. You can enslave, as was done for 300 years, the bodies of men. You can shackle the hands of men. You can shackle the feet of men. You can imprison the bodies of men, but you cannot shackle or imprison the minds of men. Dive down, black men, and dig. Reach up, black men and women, and pull all nature's knowledge to you. Turn ye around and make a conquest of everything north, south, east, and west. And then, when you have wrought well, you will have merited God's blessing, you will have become God's chosen people, and naturally you will become leaders of the world. And as you bow down to the white man today, so will other races bow down to you and call you a race of masters because of the superiority of your mind and your achievements. Because no race has the last word on culture and on civilization. They do not know what we are capable of. They do not know what we are thinking. They are thinking in terms of dreadnoughts, battleships, aeroplanes, submarines. You know what we are thinking about? That is our own private business. So give us credit for being able to use our minds. And when people becoming conscious of themselves, determined to use their minds, you do not know to what extent they can go. Liberate the minds of men, and ultimately you will liberate the bodies of men. We love the white race not for social fellowship, but for the common good of God and how He says we should live. What satisfaction can anyone get in being happy and see his brother wallowing in filth, dirt and disease? How can you be happy living in luxury and your brother is living in disease? And then when you try to help the one out of disease, the culprit talks about disloyalty. Black men of Carthage, black men of Ethiopia, of Timbuktu, of Alexandria gave the likes of civilization to this world. Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hands unto God, and princes shall come out of Egypt. Those classes, nations, races have been quite quiet for over 4 centuries, who have merely bore abuse, insult, humiliation, whose forbearance can only be compared to the prophet Job, as likewise lifted his bowed head and raised it up to God's skies and cried out, I am a man, and demand a man's chances and a man's treatment in this world. As I shall teach the black man, I shall teach the black man to see beauty in his own kind and stop bleaching his skin and otherwise looking like what he is not. Back in the days of slavery, race mixture, race miscegenation had occurred because the African woman had no protection from the slave master. Therefore, there is no need today for black people themselves to freely continue a practice that smacks so much of slavery. Our critics say the race problem will be solved through higher education. Through better education, that black and white will come together. That day will never happen until Africa is redeemed. Because if those who, like W.E. Du Bois, believe that the race problem will be solved in America through higher education, they will work between now and eternity and never see the problem solved. God made man Lord of his creation, gave him possession and ownership of the world. And you have been so darn lazy that you have allowed the other brother to run away with the whole world, and now he's bluffing you and telling you that the world belongs to him and that you have no part in it. I don't have to apologize to anybody for being black, because God Almighty knew exactly what he was doing when he made me black. If black people knew their glorious past, then they would be more inclined to respect themselves. Yes, you've heard of Johnny Walker Red and black. Well, he had his adversities, but he's still going strong. Well, I intend, with your help and God's grace, to continue, because my work has only just begun, and future generations shall have in their hands the guide by which they shall know the sins of the 20th century. I know, and I know you too believe in time, but we shall wait patiently for 200 years if need be, to face our enemies through our posterity. When mine enemies are satisfied, in life I shall come back, or in death even to serve you as I served before. In life I shall be the same. In death I shall be a terror to the foes of African liberty. If death have power, then count on me to be the real Marcus Garvey I would like to be. If I may come in an earthquake or a plague or as pestilent or as God would have me, then be assured that I shall never desert you and make your enemies triumph over you. Will I not go to hell 1,000,000 times for you? If I die in Atlanta, my work will only just then begin, for I shall live in the physical or the spiritual to see the day of Africa's glory. When I am dead, wrap the mantle of the red, the black, and the green around me, for in the new life I shall rise up with God's grace and blessings to lead the millions up the heights and the triumph that you will know. Look for me in a whirlwind or a storm. Look for me all around you, for with God's grace I shall come back with countless millions of black men and women who have died in America, those who have died in the West Indies, and those who have died in Africa, to aid you in the fight for liberty, freedom, and life. leadership that teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will enslave you. Any leadership that teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will enslave you. They gave leadership to our foreparents, and that leadership made them slaves. But we have decided to find a leadership of our own, to make ourselves free men. Our great scholars have advanced through the colleges, and universities have thrown away the blackened record. Babylon did it, Assyria did it, France under Napoleon did it, Germany under Prince John Bismarck did it, England under America under George Washington did it. Africa with 400 million black people can do it. If you cannot do it, if you are not prepared to do it, then you will die. You race of cowards, you race of imbeciles, you race of good-for-nothings. If you cannot do what other men have done, what other nations have done, what other races have done, then you had better die. Can we do it? We can do it. We shall do it. We have prayed to God for vision and for leadership, and He has given us a universal vision. A vision that will not limit our possibilities to America, a vision that will not limit our possibilities to the West Indies, but a vision that says there must be a free and redeemed Africa. Christ the crucified, Christ the despised. We appeal to you for help, for support, for leadership. When you endeavor to carry up your burden up the heights of Calvary, when white men spurned you, when white men scorned you, when white men spat upon you, when white men pierced your side and blood and water gushed forth, it was the black man in the name of Simon the Syrian who took up your cross and bore it up the heights of Calvary. And now that we are bearing our cross and the burden has been so heavy, we just ask that you help us all up the heights. Oh yes, the cause is grand, the cause is glory. Surely we shall not turn back. Oh sail on, sail on, sail on, O mighty ship of state. Sail on, until the flag of the red, the black, and the green is perched upon the hilltops of Africa. Because the time has come for the black man to forget his hero worship of other races and to create and emulate heroes of his own. We must canonize our own saints, create our own martyrs, and elevate to positions of fame and honor black men and women who have made their distinct contributions to our racial history. Sojourner Truth is worthy of a place of sainthood alongside the Joan of Arc. Crispus Attucks and George William Gordon are entitled to the halo of martyrdom with no less glory than the martyrs of any other race. To Saint L'Ouverture's brilliancy as a soldier or a statesman outshone that of any other people, hence he is entitled to the highest place as a hero among men. Because Africa has created millions and countless millions of black men and women in war and peace, whose lustre and bravery outshone that of any other people. So why not see good and perfection in ourselves? We must inspire a literature and promulgate a doctrine of our own without any apologies to the powers that be. That right is ours and God's. Let sentiments and cross opinions go to the winds. We are entitled to our own opinion and are not obligated to or bound by the opinions of others. If others laugh at you, return the laughter to them. If they mimic you, return the compliment with equal force, because they have no more right to dishonor and discredit you in manhood than you have in dealing with them. Honor them when they honor you, disrespect and disregard them when they vilely treat you. Their arrogance is but skin deep, an assumption that has no foundation in morals or in law. They have sprung from the same family tree of obscurity as we have. Their history is as rude in its primitiveness as ours. Their ancestors were running wild and living in trees of branches like monkeys as ours. They made human sacrifices, ate the flesh of their own dead and wild meat from beasts for centuries, even as they have accused us of doing. Their cannibalism is more prolonged than ours. When we was embracing the banks of the Nile, they were still drinking blood out of the skulls of their conquered dead. After our civilization had reached the noonday, of progress, they were still living in holes with bats, rats, and other insects and animals. After we had already unfathomed the mystery of the stars and reduced the heavenly constellations to minute and regular calculus, they were still backwards men, living in ignorance and in darkness. The world is indebted to us for the benefits of civilization. They stole our arts and sciences from Africa. Then why should we be ashamed of ourselves? Their modern improvements are but duplicates of a grander civilization that we reflected thousands of years ago, without the advantage of what is buried and still hidden to be reflected and resurrected by our generation and our posterity. Why should we be discouraged if somebody laughs at us today? Who is to tell what tomorrow will bring forth? Did they not laugh at Christ, Moses, Muhammad? Was there not a Carthage, Greece, and Rome? So we see and have changes every day. So pray, work, be steadfast, and be not dismayed. Because as the Jew is held together by his religion, the white races by the assumption and the unwritten law of superiority, the Mongolian by the precious tie of blood, likewise the black man must unite in one grand racial hierarchy. Our union must know no clime, no nationality, but let us all hold together in every country and every clime, making a racial empire upon which the sun shall never set. Let no voice but your own speak to you from the depths. Let no influence but your own rouse you in time of peace and in time of war. Hear all, but attend only to that which concerns you. Your allegiance shall be to your God, your race, your country. Remember that the Jew in his political and economic urge is always first a Jew. The white man is first a white man under all circumstances. So you can do no less, be black, buy black, feel black, and all else will take care of itself. Let no one inoculate you with evil doctrines to suit his own convenience. Charity begins at home. So first to thyself be true, and thou canst not then be false to no man. Because God and nature first made us first what we are, and out of our own creative genius we make ourselves what we want to be. Follow always that great law. Let God and the sky be our limit, and eternity our measurement. There is no height to which you cannot climb without the active intelligence of your own mind. Mind creates, and as much as we desire in nature, we can have through the creation of our own minds. And today, being scientifically the weaker race, you shall treat others only as they treat you. But in your homes and everywhere possible, you must teach the higher development of science to your children. And make sure that we have a race of scientists par excellence. For in religion and science lies our only hope to withstand the evil designs of modern materialism. Never forget your God. Remember that we live, work, and pray for a binding racial hierarchy whose only natural, spiritual, and political limit shall be God and Africa at home and abroad. With God's dearest blessing, I leave you for a while. One love.
But you can't jail a revolution. Right. You might run a liberator like Aaron Steve out the country, but you can't run liberation out the country.
That was a On a Level production. genealogy. Marcus Garvey rising from earth, like Moses picked from birth. Come children, say it loud, make them know we're still black and proud. Scabba-dabba-dab.
I'm black and I'm proud. I'm black and I'm proud. I'm black and I'm proud.
Scabba-dabba-dab.
I'm black and I'm proud. I'm black and I'm proud.
African leaders just wait. Garvey action we can't duplicate. Black pride him did preach. To the young we must teach. Put Garvey in reality. Make me check him philosophy. Talking about African dignity. In a this insanity. Talking about our history that begin before slavery. Come children, say it loud. Make them know we're still black and proud. Scabba-dabba-dab.
I'm black and I'm proud. I'm black and I'm proud. I'm black and I'm proud.
So we've just been listening to Look For Me in a Whirlwind or a Storm, originally delivered in 1924 and resurrected today. So this concludes day 15. But as we are near the halfway mark of this 31-part series, I'd just like to thank Brother Imani for today's narration. Imani is a committed and devoted Garveyite, and 10 years as a consultant to several government organizations through his African British Connections company. He's also a senior mentor at a local college and a social and cultural activist, a recording artist and DJ, the founder and director of 21st Century Garveyism, and the director of Give Thanks Company brand. Again, I'd like to give thanks to Imani Edwards. As a former bookstore owner, Imani sold this very speech through tape cassette in the 1990s and later on CD all across the UK. Imani sends out a grand Garveyite salute to all listeners, and he's asked me to leave you with some kind words. So to me, Garvey means everything. He's my prophet, savior, and my mentor, standard, and literally my guide in life. I was inspired by a picture and quote of Garvey from age 13 that later in life became my sole inspiration for my transformation from Lick Shot the Gangster to Brother Imani. As a devoted Garveyite, I've spent the past 30 years sharing his philosophy and opinions, and I've delivered numerous presentations on Garvey and his movement whilst working alongside many mainstream Pan-African organizations. I am also the designer of the Marcus Garvey Remembered exhibition, a comprehensive display of images and texts detailing Garvey's life and legacy. In order to begin the physical and spiritual resurrection of the Right Honourable and Most Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey, earlier this year, for the first time in the UK, Imani recreated, developed, and delivered Garvey's School of African Philosophy. In closing, Imani says, I was born to read today's speech. I have lived my life ready to be ready to deliver this speech. This speech is my foundation and the principles that I live by. I am honored, humbled, and privileged to have been offered the opportunity to contribute towards this project, though it was part of my destiny. As you know, in this series, we are paying homage to Marcus Mosiah Garvey, as Black History Month is all about celebration. So join me to give a few shout outs, starting with Garvey's parents, Mama Sarah Jane Richards and Pops Marcus Garvey Sr. We also want to pay homage to those esteemed ancestors who paved the way for Marcus to appear on the world stage. We also pay homage to the graduates of the School of African Philosophy and all of the founding members and supporters of the UNIA. Last but not least, we pay special homage and tribute to his esteemed wife, Amy Jakes Garvey, who was a formidable leader in her own right. Mrs. Garvey kept her husband's legacy alive, and it is partly because of her loving efforts that we can share this groundbreaking series with you today. Tune in tomorrow at the same time for the resurrection of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, with me, Jermaine Brown. I'm going to leave you with the famous anthem that Marcus Garvey and the UNIA members had wanted to be adopted as the universal anthem for Black people across the globe. Let's take a moment to listen and feel free to wave your red, black, and green flag should you have one.
I'm black and I'm proud. 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 I'm black and I'm
mighty race, you can accomplish what you will.
Ethiopia, thou land of our fathers, thou land where the gods love to be. A storm cloud at night suddenly gathers, all armies come rushing to thee. We must in the fight be victorious, when swords are thrust outward to gleam. For us will the victory be glorious, when led by the red, black and green. Advance, advance to victory, let Africa be free. Advance to meet the foe, advance to meet the foe, with the might of the red, the black and the green, with the might of the red, the black and the green. O Jehovah, thou God of the ages, grant unto our sons that need the wisdom thou gave to thy sages when Israel was sore in need. Thy voice to the dim past has spoken, Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hand. By thee shall all fetters be broken, and heaven bless our dear motherland. Advance, advance.